for Mark Zuckerberg as Meta, he shared in the last year or so.
Whatever censorship is on Facebook and Instagram can be really sensitive sometimes. And so they might say a word in their dialogue that...
First time that I saw a self-driven car, I was a little freaked out because I was like, oh, like nobody's in that car, nobody's driving it. But that's just like the world that we're living in now.
Welcome back to Content Supply Live, the show where we break down the latest trends in content, marketing, and tech. Well, guys, today's topics, we're going to talk about two. One is Meta's shift from traditional fact-checking to community-driven note system and how AI is influencing everyday life from personal assistants to decision-making tools. So to kind of set the stage here, Meta, obviously used to be known as Facebook, is replacing its fact-checking program with a community note system. And you know, this is something that's similar to what X, which used to be known as Twitter, right? They both changed their names in the last couple of years. Well, X is doing this. Elon over there has done a community note system. So we're gonna jump into what these topics look like and how it can apply to your own marketing efforts. So Kate and Justine, take it away. What are your thoughts on this shift in Meta's fact-checking to community-driven notes?
Yeah, this was a really interesting shift to me because I think fact-checking has been around from what I remember for about 5-ish years now, ever since like 2019, 2020. And the original purpose of it was to censor harmful content that could appear on the platform. And there was a lot of talk about censoring certain information that could come across as harmful when COVID was happening. But it really begged a question, I think, even especially when it first came out, and the conversation has continued, but should Facebook or Meta or one company be the arbiter of truth? And it's super interesting to think about because I think if everything was to go perfectly and if everyone had the same opinions and there was a way to have completely unbiased facts, I think there could be a really big benefit to this. Sometimes it scares me to see the things on social media that I see that I know are clearly AI or clearly misinformation, but then I see, I'll call them out, the older generations commenting on them and thinking they're totally real. Sometimes that scares me a little bit. So I do think that it's just an interesting conversation. I didn't think that it would happen. I hadn't heard a lot of conversation about it recently, but I was kind of shocked to open up my Facebook on the beginning of January and see this message. So it was very interesting to me. But Justine, I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting to me too. And through my research and everything, I was looking more into it. And going away from fact checking will just create a more personalized approach, which is interesting. It'll give the users more free expression, whereas before they didn't really have that free expression because posts would just get banned based on what content they were posting about. So yeah, this will be interesting as how it just started at the beginning of January. So it'll be interesting to see how it continues to do in the meta space.
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to add too, I mean, hey, Mark Zuckerberg has really come from his nerdy college years that we all think of with the social network phase. And he's grown his hair a little bit. I think he's put on some muscle. His fashion's changed, and he's really coming off as more of a masculine bro type dude. And I mean, he's done some definitely PR media training because he's coming off definitely different. He's it's like he's trying to mix a rebrand and just kind of reimagine himself as he's going into his 40s, more deeper. So that was one takeaway that has nothing to do with just him as a personal brand. Yeah. But I thought it was interesting. It was good to hear an update direct from him. There's kind of a double-edged sword here, and I've heard different perspectives in response. Is one, I'm obviously in full support of free speech. I definitely lean more towards. First off, I'm 100% all for free speech, and what that means is that free speech allows people you agree with and disagree with to speak their mind, their opinions. And those opinions can be facts, they can be falsehoods, conspiracy theories, and that's okay. As odd as that may seem, we have to risk being offensive when we desire to share thoughts and opinions and truths that others may not perceive as truth or may see otherwise. And that covers many categories of thought and topics, from politics to culture to religion. And so I think that's a unique opportunity. I do think it's very timely with the Trump administration coming in. And so, whether I do think a lot of it's politically motivated, to be honest, and also business strategy wise for Mark Zuckerberg, as Meta, he shared in the last year or so, was heavily influenced by the Biden administration to censor content and really strong-armed. I think he was recently on the Joe Rogan podcast where he shared some of those insights and direct messages from, the head, those leading at the Biden administration from a PR side. So I do think it's timely to kind of play it safe and play nice with the incoming administration from a government side. But I do think there's a percentage where he is trying to kind of reimagine, was my approach correct? It wasn't always correct. I wish I would have done better from, a leadership side over at Facebook and Meta. I don't fully know all of the policies and logistics behind community-driven notes, like what X is doing. I'm not a big X user, but the idea of giving people the ability to speak their mind freely is what our nation was founded upon. This idea of the right to free speech. And so for people to moderate that and for them to say what is truth, I think is a dangerous place to be in. To quote, the X head himself, Elon Musk, he said something to the effect of speech moderation is a propagandist word for censorship. And so if we give people the control to moderate what we're able to say and not say, that is a form of censorship, which is not in the principles of free speech. So I'm definitely on the free speech train. And so, whether it was for business strategy and personal branding, which I believe partially it was from Mark Zuckerberg, or if it was truly for in full support of free speech, I do think it's a good positive move. And if anything, it's going to give us as marketers and, those contributing to those platforms, I would say more of an opportunity to continue to promote. Obviously we promote positive messages and products and services, but I think it's a good opportunity to keep on leveraging that and capitalizing on those rights of free speech. So those are my thoughts. I don't know if you guys want to add anything else to it.
Yeah, it's true. I was thinking about just what this might mean for small businesses or marketers in general. And I've seen a lot of creators complain in the past that whatever censorship is on Facebook and Instagram can be really sensitive sometimes. And so they might say a word in their dialogue that is like censored as something political, and even if it totally wasn't, and their content gets shadow banned or it has like some weird flag over it. And so that was another thing that Zuckerberg mentioned in his address, was they're just going to rely on people reporting harmful content now instead of having the moderators make a first pass at it, which I think will be interesting.
And we definitely don't want illegal content or messages, agendas to be in place on the platforms. And I'm sure they'll do their best to, combat that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to kind of see what it's like. It'll be the wild, wild west of, outlaws and people trying to abuse.
I'm curious. Yeah, I don't know. My biggest thought moving forward is I just wonder how different the platform is actually going to feel. Is it going to feel completely different, or is it just going to feel like regular old Instagram and Facebook? It'll be interesting to see how much it really changes the day-to-day usage of it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, let's move on to the next topic. So this one is dealing with AI itself, artificial intelligence. So when it comes to AI, obviously we're thinking of many use cases. Some of the, I guess, trending visuals and references that I've been seeing relate to like literally like help from home, like robots who are at home doing the day-to-day chores, cooking your food. Like I think people think of that as such a distant future thing, but the technology and the reality of that is existing. And, you know, from the self-driving cars to the robots at home doing those chores. I've seen too many sci-fi movies. It freaks me out a little bit. I think the practical use of AI, which I'm willing to embrace fully, well, I don't want to say fully, but in a lot of big ways, is, you know, the text AI generation, like with ChatGPT, some image and video generation. But I'm a little weary about what it would mean for having like robotic friends, partners, you know, relationships to then help at home. But anyways, it obviously extends beyond that. But what are your guys' thoughts on
I
what's coming
so
out?
agree. I was watching Rocky this weekend with my husband, and I don't remember like the exact movie that it was,
Ooh,
but
that's Rocky? I think it's Rocky. Is it Rocky 2? It's Rocky 2 or 3
I
when
think
his
it's
son
three.
is
It's
like
one
a
of the
young
three.
teenager and he's
Yes,
getting big home. Oh yeah, no,
yes.
I know the
And
Rockies.
there was this little like robot walking around, and I was like, oh my goodness, like it is kind of crazy to see how that all used to seem like so futuristic, and now it's like the future's here. And I'm with you, Dylan, where I just am unsure about the ethics of it all, because to me, I see a lot of benefit in my day-to-day life as a marketer using things like ChatGPT and OpenAI, because they help me so much with my more like menial tasks, and they help tasks that I would have done and taken me forever. I can do them so much faster now. But then I also see these headlines like this one from November, this past November. The company Klarna, like Credit Klarna, recently just announced that they replaced thousands of employees with AI. And they were boasting about how one AI tech can do the work of 700 customer service workers, which obviously from a business standpoint, that's super beneficial for, I don't know, the stakeholders in the company. But I just think about all those families and all those people that are now put out of work because of a robot. And that all just used to seem so futuristic and like way crazy and out there, and now it's happening and it's hard to get away from, really.
You know, yeah, like I see that. Like I've got more of a hard perspective towards it, where it's like, you know, opportunities will create new opportunities, as far as like it's a short-term disadvantage to some, but it also allows them to contribute to the economy and society in other ways, where the same thing happened with the Industrial Revolution and early technology pre-internet, right? Where that was replacing jobs because it made, you know, line workers more efficient by having robots and conveyor belts, you know, contribute to the process. I think of like Ford Motor, where they had the revolutionary conveyor belt and processes on making cars. And so to me, it's kind of a similar form, where it's like, I think there's tremendous opportunity. And I, if anything, I think it's maybe like, because I'm a visual person, I don't want to see an AI robot that's like humanoid and interacting with it on that level and looking at for it to look human-like. That freaks me out.
That would
But
freak
if they can, like the use case, like if what they're doing, you know, like I would love AI to be like incorporated into like everyday life and routines to make things more efficient and streamlined, whether it's like making some food or just like saving me some time in the convenience. I've even seen, like, I think McDonald's and some other, if you want to call McDonald's a restaurant, but McDonald's and other like restaurants are like, if anything, you interact with more screens and technology through your customer journey physically in those spaces, where there's less, you don't really interact with as many people at the cashiers as much. You're just collecting your food. And there are some places that are almost entirely like AI or robotic based to deliver your products in a physical environment and they don't have like their delivery mechanism of the product is like at a window. And you don't go inside, and it's just like there's no human there really operating. And so I think there's tremendous opportunity. I just get freaked out by the human like robots and AI.
Yeah, I was in Phoenix a couple months ago, and it was the first time that I saw a self-driven car. I was a little freaked out because I was like, "Oh, like nobody's in that car, nobody's driving it." But that's just like the world that we're living in now. Um, I've also seen like robots that like weed gardens, which is interesting because that was like one of my least favorite jobs growing up. But now like AI is like kind of taking over and like doing the jobs that like nobody wants to do, which is interesting. And then I also think about like Siri and Alexa. They just help. They're like our own personal assistants, and you can just say, "Hey Siri, remind me to do this task tomorrow," and it'll remind you immediately. And I think I think it's great, but also scary at times too. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
curious
no,
to
and I
see-
think it's evaluating like you mentioned like gardening. I think some people appreciate the physical labor of gardening. It's their pastime, it's their therapy. And so I think people will still find place to have what I often describe as just like the human creativity of it all. It's like, don't allow AI to replace that element. I think people will still appreciate getting their hands dirty with certain things. But I think of the time savings. There's more good than bad. And I think too many, and I even think of like the self-driving cars. Like, I think that's far more cool than it is not. We've just seen too many robot type movies to make us think that AI is going to take over the world for some reason. And I don't think it's at that level, but it can be, it will be abused in different ways. So
Yeah. All I'm saying is Rocky predicted the in-house robot. And I think a lot of those sci-fi movies end up not very well, so maybe they're going to predict that right too. Who knows?
time will tell. But yeah, let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. Obviously AI has been around. It's trending massively these last few years, especially with ChatGPT and others, all this artificial intelligence. But, whether it's from Rocky or the Jetsons prior to Rocky, technology in some form has been advancing. And if anything, it's just accelerating. So I think the opportunities are really exciting. And like with anything in life and business, one thing that can be used for good can also be used for bad, and thwarted in that way. But let us know what you think. And make sure to subscribe down below. Follow us on social media @Content Supply, and tune in next time. Thanks for watching.